How's it going, everybody? This is Aaron the Pedantic. Today we are going to say bye-bye to some platitudes, or at least one platitude that people often say in RPG discourse that I'm just going to tell it to get fucked. I've had enough of it. It just doesn't serve its purpose. And so I'm not going to do it anymore. Just not going to do it anymore. What is the platitude? Well, it can go one of two ways. It's either this is a valid way to play, or there's no wrong way to play. You know, basically the same thing. And I'm just going to say, number one, I call bullshit. And number two, you're not really saying anything. So just don't bother. Just don't bother saying it. Let's just obliterate that, you know, from the discourse of RPGs. It's basically like, you know, just throwing a white flag and saying I'm done. You know, like I don't have anything really to add to this conversation. You know, whatever. It's the reason it bothers me that we do this is because ultimately the reason that we often do so is to disarm people from saying that we are some kind of bad, wrong, fun, authoritarian bastard, you know, who's trying to tell people you have to play this way or you're wrong and it's bad and, you know, whatever, which, you know, what's wrong with telling people that there's a good way and a bad way to play? There's nothing really wrong with it. It's just people just get upset. You know, that's the worst thing that can happen is people get upset. And, you know, it's okay to get upset. It's okay. But here's the thing. If you have a good opinion about what makes a good game and you're trying to create certain outcomes from your game, then sometimes it's okay to say this is a better way to do things, in my opinion. You know, so ultimately, all it is it's just relativism with regard to how one can enjoy the act of playing games. This is not something that you can accomplish with, you know, some media forms of games, you know, where there are absolute concrete, you know, ways to not do things because they will mess with things. But I mean, even then we have house rules for just about every kind of game in existence, you know, even for sports, you know, for card games, for, you know, that's just something that we do. We try to make things more fun for ourselves, but there are invalid ways to play things. This is just true. There's a certain point where the philosophy, the spirit of the game is destroyed, you know, and it becomes something else. Or maybe it's just not even something else, but it's just something that's just not that great anymore. That is something that can absolutely happen. It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And that's the thing, is that there are tried and true methods that will help you accomplish things that you can recommend to people. And you can say, well, look, you're really kind of screwing yourself here. Why don't you try this instead? And then, you know, they're like, oh, well, no, I don't want to do that because blah, blah, blah. And, you know, there's a certain point where actually, no, what they're doing is not valid. You know, like if I were to, for instance, allow, you know, so, you know, of course, with D&D is the easiest example. You know, we have the perspective of roles. We have the dungeon master or referee, and we have the players. And these are very separate roles. There are people that have been kind of putting bridges between these things where the players have a bit more authority over certain things in the game world and stuff like that. And I can easily say that this is an invalid way to play if you're grasping for some kind of simulationism, if you are trying to present you know, challenges for them to overcome as a team. If that is what the activity is for the group, is for them to be strategic and overcome objectives, that if you start letting the team of players define, you know, parameters of the objectives, in that way. And now, very specifically, I'm not saying that you can't have them decide what the objective for the game is, but what the obstacle is, for them to decide what the obstacle is. The obstacle is going to be defined by the referee or the DM, because of the fact that they're the one that constructed the world. So whenever you have people that are giving this to the players, this becomes invalid from a certain modus operandi of play, basically. You know, this it violates the principles of play. It violates what you get out of it. This is why whenever I look at other people's games, if there are certain procedures that the GM does, such as fudging, then I'm not interested. You know, if they don't have a more concrete world that I can dig into, I'm probably not interested. If they are getting really wishy-washy about details because, you know, they're using illusionism or something like that, I'm not interested. You know, it is not a valid way to play for the type of outcomes that I desire. And I think that there's nothing wrong with just telling people, you know, you can do this. Like I cannot stop you. You are an autonomous human being. But if you do this, it's going to be bad in this way. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And this is what a lot of role-playing game discussion is. It's just saying, this is a good method for doing this. This is a bad method for doing this. Trying to find what is true, what is not true with regard to that. You know, what are some... Somebody wanted attention. What are some things that you can do to enhance your game, to, produce a different kind of play? You know, these are things that we strive for, that we try to learn about and explore so that we can make the games more enjoyable for the people that we have at our table. That's just what we do. So to just boil everything down to there's no wrong way to play is just wrong. It's just wrong. I'm sorry. It just is. There are things that there's a reason that there's good horror and bad horror. You know, horror has been a big discussion because of Ravenloft. There's a reason why we look at these things and we're like, this is probably not going to produce very good horror for the most part. You're going to have to ignore a lot of this advice. Some of it, you could take it or leave it. So, and, you know, here's the thing. A lot of common wisdom is really not that wise. You know, a lot of it is just based off of people, you know, presupposing things that, have rung true for them in the past, but they probably don't have, you know, the perspective that they've tried other things to see whether or not it works. This is why I try to not make a whole lot of incredibly declarative statements about what is and is not good play for certain things unless I've experienced it. And there are a lot of people that will dismiss things before they even experience them. I try not to do that. You know, some people may be able to find some clips of me doing that and use that against me. But so why bother saying this is a valid way to play? From henceforth, I will be just saying, you know, like if it comes down to it where somebody is saying, I play the game like this, I'm just going to say, cool. Cool. You know, like, that's assuming that I'm not going to tell them, you know, that there's something that I would do differently. And I'll do that sometimes if I feel like it's warranted, you know. The only time I ever feel like justifiably, incensed to say this is a valid way to play is just whenever people are being total assholes, you know, just like whenever they are trying to deride people for having certain interests or, you know, things that they enjoy in their games. For instance, I don't like romance in games typically. My experience with it has been it's kind of weird. It's kind of awkward. It can be funny, and I appreciate that. It just doesn't really jive with me that much. You know, there's a certain level of suspension of disbelief, and I might have to go catch my lizard because I'm worried about where he's going. There's a certain level of suspension of disbelief I can get away with whenever we're at the table where I can feel immersed. But it kind of gets to a certain point where if it looks like, you know, we're taking this romance stuff too seriously, then, you know, I'm flirting with my friends. And I don't want to delve into that territory. I completely understand the act of role playing is not doing the act in and of itself, or at least, you know, that's the intent. But at the same time, we're not very good actors. You know, we're just not. So whenever it comes down to stuff like that, there's just a certain point where I'm like, let's fade to black. Let's just get past this. You developed this relationship, like you did it. So that's something you can call back on later. And so, whenever people are going to dog on people who are like, oh, I love the smoochy RPG, then I feel like I have to step in and say shit like that. But I guess what I will do instead, because again, I hate this fucking, shit platitude, is to just start saying, let people have their smooches. Leave them alone. Stop being a dick, I guess that's what I'm going to have to go to, because it's just annoying. Pet peeve. Call it a pet peeve, if you will. There are just all kinds of things like this. So if you have some in mind, that you can think of, then feel free to chime in, and I will look at them, and maybe we can learn from them. There are definitely a lot of sayings that people make that aren't necessarily platitudes, because they aren't, they don't fulfill the definition exactly, but they're just kind of common sayings that people say that I disagree with, but they don't really fit in here. This is just like people just say it and it doesn't really mean anything. So that is my thing for today. I am wanting to do a stream tonight with Milady. We've been watching people react to 90 Day Fiancé stuff, and it's been funny. But there's this scene from that you don't care about references. Anyway, we've been, and I was wanting to talk about something that is really going to raise a stink. It's inclusion, basically. So inclusion in hobbies. And I was wanting to do that with Chelsea and see what shake that tree and see what comes of it. Spoiler, I don't think that anybody would not get pissed off at me, because I don't really agree with anybody on either side, to the extreme, basically. And unfortunately, that seems to be where most people want to reside on these discussions, is firmly planted on one side or the other, and very aggressively hurling projectiles at each other. So there definitely is typically one side that will hate me more, though. Probably not the people that are listening, but it is something I wanted to talk about because of the fact that there are a lot of common opinions that are expressed in my circles that I really don't fully agree with, and I would like to differ with them on. And there are opinions on the other side that I definitely don't agree with and need to counter on certain points. So I think it's worth addressing. Some people are probably going to skip it just because of the title, and I get that. That's completely fine. But it's something that I think needs to be talked about, just because there's really not a whole lot of balanced discussion on that, I don't think. So, and it may end up going private because I don't know what Milady is going to say. And sometimes she says things are a little bit too spicy, and I have to unlist them or make them private. So that may happen. So you may want to try and catch it live. It'll probably be about 7 p.m. 6:30. We'll shoot for 6:30. That way, we can, get to sleep a little earlier. Again, I'm getting old, so I'm trying not to stay up too late. Anyway, that's it for today as far as this goes. So we do have the live stream that I'm hoping to do tonight. If we can't do it tonight, we can do it tomorrow night. And then Thursday night, we're going to be trying to get plenty of rest because Friday night, we're going to be trying to get plenty of rest because Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be at North Texas RPG Con. So very excited about that. Some subscribers have already mentioned that they're gonna try and see us there. Very excited about that. I wish I had a shirt with my logo on it so people could pick me out easier. But just look for this face. I'm going to try and trim up before then, though. So anyway, y'all have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. There are a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I've been really busy. So it's time to play catch up. See y'all later.